our fall registration. Actually, classes started on Monday. And so for the first 8 weeks of the fall semester, those classes are underway, as well as the 16 long weeks of courses are also underway at this time. When we take a look at our fall 22 numbers compared to our fall 23 numbers, I'm happy to report that we have a slight increase as of this time. And we expect that to continue to grow as we continue to accept students into our classes that are ongoing at this time. I do want to take a note and mention that we have approximately 400 students that are not added to my count right now, but will be added when we do submit the final report to the state. These students are currently waiting for their classes to begin because they have registered for courses that are starting later in the semester, for example, until October, or even at the end of the month, or even in September. So for those reasons, at this time, we're not counting those additional 400 students, but definitely where we stand right now, we have a slight increase over last year with our final number.
Okay.
My next slide then just gives a representation of how the student of type is. Basically, that we enrolled currently right now, we have over 3,800 students that we are calling returning students, for instance. These are students that have at one point or time been at LC, left LC, and are coming back, or they're just continuing into their second year of their 2-year degree. We categorize those students as returning students. We have the 3,765 dual credit students, which currently is comprising over 40% of our enrollment. And then we have about 1,695 what we would call first-time in college students, which you could consider to be like freshmen that are starting out college for the very first time. So our freshmen basically comprise 18% of our enrollment, the returning students 41%, and our dual credit students 40%. And the small sliver that you see there is basically 1% of our student population are actually transfer students that are coming from to LC from other schools for the fall semester. And so that's currently what the breakdown looks like when we look at the student population in general.
And so it's in general, in other words, the first time students in college include the regular students and also workforce, the continuing?
Yes, not the continuing ed, but just students that are enrolled in credit courses, credit bearing courses, yeah. Students that are going to start their college transcript with us.
So this does not include the community education courses?
That is correct. That is correct.
When are we gonna add that number to the total number?
We can, and I can bring that number as of now. Right now, I believe our current unique student enrollment in continuing ed courses as of this morning was 57, because their schedule is actually laid out on a quarter basis. So they don't follow a semester type of scheduling. And so currently, the month of August represents the fourth quarter of the previous year of continuing education courses. And so they're in essence wrapping up their year during this quarter. Okay. But certainly I can bring the numbers at our next meeting and definitely showcase the differences in the quarter to quarter comparisons.
And the dual enrollment, did it go up from last year or?
Right now, as of this morning, which is the snapshot that I had, we were 20 students behind, but as of this afternoon, we're 117. And so we're still registering some of the duals, only because there's some adjustments that are still happening with this schedules of the high school students. I believe Ms. Trevino has a comment.
So on the dual enrollment, we are actually waiting on some scores from districts to register an additional, I believe there's 100 students that are pending. And we actually just received today 120 schedule changes just from one school. So there will still be some movement with the dual enrollment students. So because we do have up to the 12th class day to do any updates or changes needed, we are trying to limit those as soon as we can, but just today there was 120 received from a particular high school. So we are waiting on those scores. We do expect at least to be at par from last year or way up in terms of overall enrollment.
Okay, thank you.
Now, just another point to make regarding the dual students, there are traditional 16-week long courses. So they're not on the compressed format as most of ours are, right? Any questions so far? Okay. Next, we want to do a recap for you of our summer commencement, and to do that, I'll call on AVP 30.
Thank you, Dr. Frank. So just a quick summer commencement recap in terms of the number of graduates that we saw across the stage. As you all may be aware, the ceremony took place on Friday, August 11th. And what you're seeing on here are the numbers of students that were in attendance that actually graduated at the ceremony. So we do have 33 from the Basorbo program, which was a combined ceremony. Before they used to have their standalone commencement. Now we're combining it into this one. We had 47 Associate of Arts students, 34 Associate of Science, for a total of 114 in the morning ceremony. In the afternoon ceremony, we did see a total of 103, and there the certificates took most of it at 92, and then the AAS took at 11 graduates. So again, we had a little over 215 students graduate in the summer, and we look forward to continue increasing that number.
You all did a great job.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This concludes our short presentation.
I have
Any-
one more question already about the flex classes.
Mhm.
How's that going? How, for the fall, like how are we doing with that?
Well, actually, the majority of the enrollment that you see in our slide here is in those 8-week
Are
format
those
courses, yes.
Okay.
There's a few selections that are 16-week long courses, and there's exceptions as to why those have to remain on 16 weeks. But the majority are on the flex terms of 8 weeks. And so what Robert
And it's being
reported,
reflected. I'm
Are
sorry.
you asking flex courses like the flex meaning
The reporting.
hybrid, or are you meaning in flex by meaning the different
like-
start times?
Well, both.
I wanna
It
get
could be,
because
it could be the
Okay.
hybrid courses,
Okay.
you know, where they can come
Right.
class or, you know, take it at home, and the other courses as well, that
Mhm.
have different starting dates.
Okay.
I
yes.
think Dr. Tijerina can probably give you a little bit more on the hybrids,
Okay.
and then a little more background on the number of hybrid courses we're actually running, and then the start dates, probably, I don't know. You have that as well, right? Okay.
Okay.
So,
So to actually answer the second portion first, which is the start dates
Yeah.
of the courses, we do have a part of term calendar, and I can get you copies, or it's always accessible on the website as well. And which indicates exactly the start date of every term that we have, okay? Currently, we're running 12 part of term calendars, which all have their unique start dates. Some of them aligned for starting this past Monday, but then some of them differ in the census date or reporting date because of the duration of the program. So the general 16-week term will always have reporting date on the 12th class day. The rest of the terms are going to have what would be the equivalent of the 12th class day in terms of census date. So for instance, the first 8-week term that started on Monday has a reporting date of August 28th, which is next week. So that means it gives us up until August 28th to make any final adjustments needed before we need to report that number to the state. Now, talking about the second 8 weeks, which is where the other approximately 400 students that we have lie, that one won't start until October 16th. And the reporting date for that one will be October 23rd. So at that point, we'll actually be able to see how many students are actually taking the second 8-week term. Now, the 400 that we're mentioning here are uniquely taking the second 8-week term. So we have all the ones that are taking the first week that will continue into the second 8 weeks, plus an additional 400 new ones. Yes.
Okay.
400 new ones that are going to be starting in the second week. Obviously, we hope to continue increasing that number because we do have a couple of months from now till that start date. So that's going to be happening there. So the second 8 weeks has its unique payment deadline. So they'll be paying the Friday before the start of the class, and it has its independent reporting date and so on and so forth, so that we're able to continue pushing the second 8 weeks in terms of enrollment and registration to hopefully increase that number. So the same model applies for all the other part of terms that have different start dates. In terms of the hybrid classes, do you have the number? Because I have some preliminary numbers, but
Marisela Rodriguez Tijerina, I'm looking at the enrollment report that was sent to us this morning. There's 1,732 head count of students out of the, I can't see the number up there, but
55, 58. I think.
55, 58,
Uh-huh.
who are currently in hybrid courses. For distance learning, we have 2,935. For main campus, we have 2,155. For South Campus, we have 855. Off campus, what off campus could consist of is any student in dual enrollment or like in clinicals when they're doing outside work. That's 3,584. Hopefully that answered.
Yes. Thank you.
Now, in closing, to the final fall enrollment number, regardless of when the class started, will be reported by November the 15th.
November the 5th.
Yeah, and so regardless whether it started as a 16-week course or it started as an 8-week course or a 4-week course, all those enrollment numbers get reported to the state in November.
Just point of clarification, Marisela, or point of information, with hybrid, just so we understand what hybrid means is that 50 to 85% could be online, but the others, the students are forced to come to campus physically. So they're, let's say on a Monday, Wednesday, they're asked to come to class, and then Tuesday, Thursday will be the online portion. And that hybrid model theoretically throughout higher ed has shown better progress. It actually showed good progress on a small pilot for dual also. So I don't know if that's gonna be the incoming, mode of delivery or trend as to how students learn.
And I think finally, Minta Ramirez, for the record, just so that you all are aware, if a student did not start in the first 8-week term, they can still start in the second 8-week term. I had a call this morning from someone, well, actually, I stopped at the bakery and the young man says, I didn't get a chance to register. Do I have to wait till January? And I said, no, you can come in the second 8 weeks, which he says in October. And I said, yes. I said, but don't wait till October because then you won't come then either. And so the idea is to give students an opportunity more often to move ahead faster, finish sooner, stay engaged more.
Yes.
On campus and in class. And there's somebody that they're gonna talk to and see every day. And so hopefully that will continue to increase our information.
Informally, the second 8 weeks is often referred to as the second start. You didn't get the chance to start now, you can come back in October and start then. And so we refer to it as the second start.
Very good. Thank you. Now we're gonna move on to the Laredo College Student Handbook, also Dr. Fetzer.
Fred Solis, Vice President for Student Success and Enrollment. For this presentation, I'm going to call upon our Associate Vice President for Student Engagement, Mr. Carmelino Castillo, who will be presenting the Student Handbook this evening.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members, Dr. Ramirez, administrators and guests. My name is Carmelino Castillo, Associate Vice President for Student Life and Engagement. For the record, I would like to present to you our student handbook that we have already published for our students. Now, if you notice, it is a very large handbook. It contains a lot of information that's useful for our students, information regarding the campus history, along with the mission, general information, college services, and student rights and responsibilities, along with different events and activities that are happening here on campus. Because this is a very large book, we've also transitioned this into an online version. So it is currently located on our website, accessible for our students who have been already provided this information during our new student orientation program. So if we were to go onto our website and go under student services, you'll see the student handbook listed here. And once you click it, it automatically, let's go into the catalog. I do apologize. There you
There it is.
go.
Let's hold on, catalog.
Still going to.
Refresh.
There it is. So when you click it on the student handbook, it provides you all the details that a student needs to be successful here on campus. It provides you the welcome, the campus governance, the mission, general information, student rights and responsibilities. So when a student comes over here, which is also mobile friendly, so a student can go ahead and use this on their phone and adapt and say, you know, what are some of the services here at Laredo College that I need to know? And so it provides you all that information. So if we click on college services, it automatically tells you in that section it pertains to the bookstore, bursar's office, cafeteria services, campus police, office of recruitment, dual enrollment, vacation student center, various different programs that the college has to offer. And when you click one of these, it'll tell you exactly the information that you need to know. For example, campus police, open, available 24/7. And so that way, and then the information that's very important for our students to know. So this information is already available for our students. And also it's one of the things that our students must be aware of. So that way it's part of the process of being engaged and being informed here on our campus and being part of our campus. But one of the other items that we also want to mention is that there is an information here, student information that is listed that students can go, like they can grades if they're needing to know about their grade point average. That information is listed there. What an A means, what a B, what a C, because a lot of times our students are familiar with the A's, but they don't know about the GPA standard. It's a 4.0, it's a 3.0, and so forth. And then it also has the standard of works, academic fresh start, which is also very important, especially for our students that are coming back for being out from campus for quite a bit sometimes. So this information is available for them.
But academic fresh start applies to anyone wanting to come back to school that's been out for an extended period of time.
Correct. And so the information is listed here for our students, so that way they can review. And so we have a array. So it's a large, this booklet that's here is also, now the best thing about the online version is that the online would have the most updated information that our students need to have. Like if there's a change in policy that comes up, that will be listed here.
Maybe like a living.
It's a living, breathing document. Yes.
Very good.
Will you go to student rights and responsibilities, please? I think this is, the student code of conduct is what students here are required to abide by. And so I think that's probably one of the most,
Can I ask a question? Do the students, everybody receives this, or you just tell them about this? Do they sign and they know what the code of conduct is here, or how does that work?
The student code of conduct is an informational component during our new student orientation that was provided to all our incoming student. Also, the student code of conduct is an information that's sent out by our director of student conduct and Title IX that sends it at the beginning for our students. So it is an informative piece that students are aware of, and so.
by law, after the 12th class day of every long semester, the institution has to send out an email to all enrolled students about all of their rights and responsibilities on campus. And so that is sent to every student via email that they have listed in their student information record, and through, it should go out through Canvas.
And do they reply that they received it?
We don't have to get a reply that they received it.
As long as we send.
We just have to provide that information. And including information about Cleary, including the student code of conduct, including what services are offered on campus. All of that has to go out. Rights and responsibilities, and there we have to include Title IX. We have to include where to report violence against women, I mean, so there's a whole list of things
The
that,
campus carry, which
Yes.
is now something.
everything has to go, and so it's done. It should go out on the 13th class day.
Okay,
Either from, and that'll go out either from Dr. David Ariasola, who's compliance, because that's part of our SAS, or it goes out by Dr. Fred, one of the two, and it should go out to all enrolled students.
Marisela Rodriguez Tijerina for the record. It's also included on our syllabus, the student handbook, we make reference to it. And every faculty member, we do a verification that they understand the components of the syllabus. It's like the syllabus acknowledgement activity that we do. And there is where they sign, and we have it through Canvas. So it is a practice that we do with our faculty and our students, so that way we have the signatures, because we know through occurrences, and also our division, our programmatic, they have their program orientation, and at that point, there's also a signature of them acknowledging the handbook of their programs.
okay, very good, perfect.
And as she said, sometimes each program may have specific requirements that they have to have acknowledgement for. I'm assuming in the workforce areas, that's extremely common, and so they have to wear goggles, and they have to, there are other safety things that they have to do, that they have to sign off on. And I think in financial aid, we also have,
Yes. Steven Aguilar for the record, yes, we also have.
come to the mic, please.
Steven Aguilar for the record, members of the board, Dr. Ramirez. Yes, in financial aid, we do have a statement of rights and responsibilities that goes out to all students that apply under Title IV. That's a responsibility that ties along with what Dr. Ramirez is saying. And for ours, they have to sign it, and we receive that document, we keep it safe, and the student knows every right that they have when receiving Title IV, what they need to do, what the do's and don'ts, and everything that entitles Title IV.
So there's a lot of.
Yes, that's good. Cross-site. Okay.
Any questions?
I don't think so. What about well, you know what, the college catalog, I saw that it was is it in there too?
Towards the bottom.
It should be.
And is that just the courses that are?
The,
What is that? What is included in that college?
it takes you to the college, well, in this one in particular, you can go to the college catalog, Laredo catalog, which gives you the information about.
So the newest catalog is not there, and that's something that we're working on, Mr. Chavez and Ms. Rios and Jessica, they're all working on updating it. They've been meeting to update all the information on the catalog. I think I don't know, Dr. David had to step out, but I know that there is a new catalog already. I think the links may be kind of mixed up, Dr. Tijerina. Because I think if you go to the homepage and go to the catalog, it's different there. There's a new one. So off of certain pages, some of the links are off, and we're still clearing that up. Are you all taking notes on this, please? Because all of these things have to be cleaned up. You clicked on two separate sites for the student handbook, and it took you to the catalog, and now the catalog took you to the old catalog. So those links need to be updated. But they spent part of the summer going over and updating the catalog.
Okay.
So,
And the catalog is based on the fees and regulations for the courses.
so when a student is admitted for the first time,
Uh-huh.
the student comes in on a particular catalog. That student has a right to stay on that catalog for 5 years,
Oh, okay.
which means if we change the requirements for a particular degree plan, the student has a right not to move into the new degree plan and stay and finish within the allotted time for that degree for the duration of that particular catalog degree. So we have to be cognizant of that. At any given time, we may be running several catalogs at the same time, because a student has a right not to move into the new catalog unless it's a state requirement. in which case the student doesn't have a choice.
So Jessica Trevino, AVP of Enrollment Management for the record, an update on the college catalog. So it is something that we actually have been working on rewording entirely. So it's been a completely rewrite project. And there is actually a software that we are incorporating into the catalog usage. So right now the catalog lives under what we call Smart Catalog. It's a particular software, and we're transitioning it into a completely new software. So it's the new software is by the name of CourseLead. It's been a collaborative effort because yes, the degree plans do live on the catalog. So I know instruction has been actively looking at the degree plans and to update those, but it also contains a lot of other information. So such as all the regulations on financial aid live on the college catalog. Essentially, there's a big difference between the catalog and the student handbook because the catalog is our binding contract with the student. That is where our guidelines stand and they go. The student handbook is, like Mr. Castillo mentioned, an informational piece for the student that has additional information for the student. In essence, both of them refer to each other. So we've got to make sure that both of them are on the same page, kind of hand by hand, so that they go together. So it's been a lot of rewriting and it's been a lot of rework. For instance, one example that I can give you on the catalog, that is where our admissions policy lives in the catalog. That's where we state exactly what we need for admissions for general admissions to the college. And then in partnership with our departments, we also state the admissions policies for those programs that require a secondary admissions process. So a student gets admitted to Laredo College, but to be able to be admitted to the nursing program, they've got to meet certain requirements before they get admitted to the nursing program. So it's been a rework, it's been a rewrite. We are pending on some areas, so we want to make sure that that's ready as we transition it into the new system.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we'll move on. Number 5, shaping the future, the impact of an 8-week and 4-week instructional course models on student success. Dr. Horacio Salinas and Mr. Eddie Bethlehem.
Good evening, board members of the Student Success Committee. I'm Horacio Salinas, Dean of Arts and Sciences. Dr. Ramirez.
Good evening, board members, Dr. Ramirez, Rigoberto Hernandez, Dean of Workforce Education.
So we're going to give a quick presentation on the 8-week model that I'm overlooking in the Arts and Sciences, and then the 4-week model that Mr. Hernandez will give regarding the workforce area. So this will be a short presentation. What are 4-week and 8-week courses? Well, in short, they're accelerated courses that can be completed in 4 or 8 weeks. And we also have other shortened terms besides these, plus the 16-week traditional. They offer the same content and credit as the traditional 16-week. It's really important that we emphasize that because many people think, oh, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, are you condensing, are you adding 16-week into an 8-week model or a 4-week model or a 3-week? No, it's a question of redesign. So we design our courses for 8 weeks or 4 weeks using the same student learning objectives that the coordinating board expects us to teach. And we align that with the course materials. It is also very important that when we do design these courses, they align with the Texas pathways. That is, that these courses that are taken will eventually lead to some credential. And they're also aligned with the state's coordinating board's strategic plan called Building a Strong Talent Texas. So what we've done, or what I've done, is to look at the research on these shortened terms, and study after study indicates that shortened terms, like the 4-week or the 8-week, have a positive impact on student learning. They do improve student outcomes. Students complete more courses each semester. We have more on-ramps, as Dr. Ramirez mentioned earlier, where students can, you miss the first 8 weeks, hey, next 8 weeks, winter semester. I mean, there are plenty of on-ramps to get these students completed. So they fast track toward earning a degree. The other thing about the studies that we've seen is that shortened terms allows for a type of student engagement that helps student become more focused, but also the faculty member as they're engaged in meeting those deadlines towards the 8 weeks. And then the hope is, and to include also see an increase in graduation and success rates. Now, we have been offering what are called the second start courses for a number of semesters. I picked here with the help of Maria Luisa Ramirez to get just a snapshot of the enrollment and the student success rates from the spring 2021 onwards. So these semesters, second start, showed a very good success rate back in spring of 2021 at 65%. These are ABCs, student success rate, ABCs. At that time, it was close to 500 enrollment. The following semester, 68% with 590 enrollment. Spring 2022, 71 success rate with enrollment of 663. And then the fall 2022, 67 student success rate with an enrollment of 737. And then just recently, the past spring 2023, 74 success rate with an enrollment of 615. A lot of it depended on what was offered. In some cases, we offered as many as 30, and in some cases, 26 courses. And then it also depended on what courses were being offered. So in spring 2023, there were a lot of science courses. Now, in order to continue to look at the success as we look at these shortened terms, we're going to have to look at key performance indicators or metrics and collect data. We're going to look at students who earned 6 plus credits in term 1, completed first college level math. As you can see here, level reading, completed the first level reading writing in year 1, math reading writing in year 1, and persistence going from term to term. So one of the important things will be the role of data. And the fact is that we must find out what's happening to our students from term to term, retention, so that way we're able to find solutions to keep them on path, on target. And to support this, last semester, we started the 8-week implementation committee. So some of the things that have been going on in the college is professional development. Faculty are learning to design and redesign their courses. They're learning about that, student engagement and other courses, other seminars and sessions that they're learning. They're having faculty buy-in conversations in the departments about what are the struggles, what are the concerns, how do we make this work? The important thing is to put them into find the solutions to things, and let's brainstorm. That's the important thing. And we're overseeing this with an 8-week implementation committee. We met, we're going to try to pick it up again this semester, but last spring, we have a cross-functional team made up of these type of individuals, from the administrators all the way down to institutional research. The idea is to plan, strategize, troubleshoot, to see how they're going so that we can make decisions and keep students successful. Here's the thing you might have seen, the flyer that's going out now. We are going to be working on a video. It's actually done. We just need to finish the finishing touches. 8-week courses, avoid student burnout, be a full-time student on a part-time schedule, stay on track and graduate on time, lighter course loads, redesign courses, and so on. Your pace, your race. So putting it in the hands of the student. I'll turn it over now to Mr. Adams.
Once again, good evening, board members. Like Dr. Salinas mentioned, the workforce education has been implementing a 4-week compressed scheduling model. And we started this in 2020. So in 2019, we pitched the idea to 2 departments, one here at the Fort McIntosh campus, which was the Industrial Technology Department. It houses our welding, HVAC, and electrical. And in the South Campus, our Transportation Technology, which houses the diesel program, our auto collision, and the auto technology, or auto mechanics program. So I met with the chairs. They were intrigued, but not convinced, right? Because it is a 4-week model, and it's something different. You're looking at 4 separate sections throughout the semester, the 16-week semester. So it took about a year of meeting with faculty and getting them on board, convincing them of, or not convincing them, but highlighting the benefits of, potential benefits of this type of schedule. And the main benefits were that students are only concentrating on one course at a time, right? And the way the workforce works, the benefit of these programs is that we typically register them on a cohort basis. So they register for all 4 classes at once. So what that allows us to do is scaffold the courses accordingly and start with, for example, an introductory course the first 4 weeks, and then build on that course, rather than having all 4 at once. It's kind of convoluted for the student. These departments also rely heavily on equipment, heavy equipment, tools. So when you have 4 classes going at the same time in the semester, there's a lot of changeover, there's, multiple processes, and one day you're using some equipment, put it away, take out the other equipment. So that cuts into the instructional time. With having the 4-week model, you're only focused on one course, one set of equipment, one set of processes, and you really master those before you move on to the next. So again, the industrial technology department and the transportation technology department were the ones that implemented this. We did see an increase in student success and an increase in student retention. Students were actively engaged. There is a sense of urgency and engagement when by week 2 you're taking a midterm, right? So it's a little bit more intense. But the faculty and the students were surprised that they got further into their projects. They were able to complete more projects in a 4-week model than in a 16-week model, for the same reason that they're just focusing on one topic at a time. Again, it's more efficiency and instruction. So these are some of the stats. In 2019 for industrial technology, this is for the department as a whole. 2019, we were still offering a 16-week schedule. In the fall of 20 and the fall of 21 and 22, we were offering the 4-week model for all courses. So there was an increase in student success, and it's been maintained across the years, as well as the retention rate also increased. This is for industrial technology, and in the transportation technology, it also went up. So students' grades went up, their passing rates went up, their failing rates obviously went down, and the retention rate also increased. So we're hoping to expand this to other areas. In fact, when we gave the faculty the option of transitioning to an 8-week model, they prefer to stay with a 4-week. They've already adjusted to that format, and they're kind of in a rhythm of just one course and the next and the next and the next. And that's pretty much our implementation of the 4-week in those 2 departments. I don't know if there's any questions for.
Let me ask you about the 8-week courses, not the 8-week courses. I know that now we're going, they have more 8-week courses than before. Have we ever surveyed the students, besides just Mr. Chris, on how they feel about those courses? About the 8-week courses, as far as, are they overwhelmed, or do they like it better? At any point, or at the midpoint of those 8-week courses, have we ever done anything like that?
I'm not sure if there was some data regarding maybe the SESI or other engagement. I do know that just based on the second start, where there was not a formal that I know of, maybe Dr. Ramirez can say, there was not a formal survey, although it is a very good idea. One of the things that is going to be very important as we embark on this larger scale of implementing the 8 weeks, for example, is to determine by the data how students are doing. Are they dropping? Are they burning out? So that's going to be one indicator. So we're going to be looking at the data to say that. It may also be the case that, we can find out, what the students are feeling. But I will say that based on the second starts that we've had over the last 5 semesters, the enrollment and the demand for it was growing. Maybe Dr. Fred can say something about that. And I know that in my area right now, classes are pretty full.
Well,
Doing well.
It's only the 3rd day, and yesterday was a half day.
I know. I was just like, I understand. Okay.
But it is something for us to consider doing towards the end as part of our class evaluation, because they're not taking 4 classes the first 8 weeks. They're only taking, I think at a maximum 3, if that many. So typically you take 2 classes every 8 weeks. By the end of the 16 weeks, you still finish 12 hours. And then you're comfortable enough and you think, well, I'll do a winter semester. I'll do 1 class. So now you've completed 15. And before you know it, you're closer to the end than you were to the beginning. And so, and I think that mindset puts students in a position of, well, why am I gonna drop? I already took my midterm, you know, so I'm gonna just keep going. Dropping is not an option anymore because I don't have to wait another 8 weeks. I'm gonna be done in 4 and then I have to start all over again? No, forget it. So, you know, it becomes a different rhythm. Now, the pilot was done last year. I think that at the end of this semester or this academic semester, maybe in December, we start to assess the students and find out how they feel about the 8-week program and start to gather the qualitative data on that.
That sounds good. Yes.
Hitting up for the record. We didn't show the data here, but I think what's important out of the 4-week model, when we did program reviews for all our educational programs, one of the significant data was that the graduation rates doubled. So with the 4-week, and I know anyone else didn't show that today, but to us, that's success, right? Because after they finish the 4-week, the faculty make sure that they're enrolled in the next right course. And so the cohort stays like a little family and the retention is higher with that. So seeing the graduation rates is a big also metric that we look at as far as the success.
And also these courses are daily, right? They go Monday through Thursday, right?
Right.
Which I think is also good for.
They're engaged every day.
Yes, every day.
Instead of,
Every other day or just twice a week and.
well, I mean,
It gives
you
them
would,
more time.
you had a class Thursday and you don't have another class until next Tuesday.
know.
Pues,
I was there. I knew.
And I think if I may add, the main benefit is that you're not only in class every day, but it's the same class. Continuous class, right? So you're not changing, for example, on Monday from an engine to Tuesday brakes, Thursday electronics. It's engines all week, and that's where students found themselves advancing more in the project because there was no pause to that particular project. They just kept going and going and going.
And then I could further add, one of the things we noticed by our dual students in their success is that they're in class every day.
Yeah.
Now, they may not meet their college instructor every day, maybe twice a week, but then they have a facilitator and they continue to do the work the other days. By going to the 8-week, and certainly with the 4-week or other models, the 8-week, they're there more regularly, either 4 days a week, or if it's a hybrid, 2 days a week. And that again, time on task, just get it done. And I think there's been research that shows that for the long semesters for students who are part-time working, have other things, right around the 9-week or so, there's burnout, there's like heavy withdrawals, heavy drops, and you don't see them anymore. So it's gonna be interesting to see what we see on this data. But I think students are excited. A student yesterday called me and said, how many courses can I take? I wanna graduate by the end of the semester. I said, well, you're not gonna take more than 3.
yeah, and the data, I think there's a reason why there's an 8-week. So if you start to read the pedagogy on the 8-week, is because typically at institutions of higher learning at the 9th week is when students start to get sick, when students start to drop, when students start to get bored, they stop showing up, they become no-shows. And so the theory says that within 8 weeks, you catch them before that, where they peak at 8 weeks, which is what you want them to do, right? Peak at the final instead of peak and then come down and drop.
Right.
So there's a reason why everybody's settling on this 8-week model.
Very good. Excited to see.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, number 7, the federal financial aid.
No, number 6.
Oh, I'm sorry. Number 6, implementing House Bill 8 outcome-based funding model. Dr. Salinas, also.
So the reason I asked Dr. Salinas to do this presentation, he's been doing this, he put this together at the end of the passage of House Bill 8 and, well, I guess over the summer. And as we gathered more information of the 88th legislative session, and he put this together and did it for a lot of our departments already, and it's a very good presentation and it's a great synopsis of what's gonna be expected of us starting this Monday that just passed, right? So, and it's important for the adults to know as much about this as well as the students, and he laid it out clearly, so I asked him to please present to you all this information in a different way to help us understand moving forward. And every time I hear him say something, I think of something else, so I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. So Horacio Salinas, Dean of Arts and Sciences, for the record, board members of the Success Committee. This is my presentation overview of House Bill 8 that was signed into law on June the 9th by Governor Abbott this past summer. And it looks at the way we will be funded now, effective this semester. And it's House Bill 8 and the funding model for community colleges. Now, the question has come many times, why are we changing the model from the static old model, which I will highlight? Well, there are many reasons. Part of the reasons is that in the last census in 2020, we reached over 30 million people in the state of Texas. We're the fastest growing state, and we're second to California now in terms of population. And with that comes, of course, many challenges. And one of them, of course, is that the economy is becoming more sophisticated, more specialized, expanding, and changing. And so the Dallas Reserve came up with a report, All Eyes on Texas, where they highlighted the role of community colleges, because when they looked at the next 15 years, they saw that more than 4 million jobs will be created in this new economy. Millions of those are going to require a bachelor's and more, but millions are going to require middle tier workers, those that are above high school but less than a 4-year college. And that's where they highlight the importance of community colleges in the state of Texas. And that's a very good thing for us, because a lot of times it seems like we were ignored, right? And we were doing more with less. And in looking at some of the data points, community colleges enroll more than 43% of post-secondary students in the state of Texas, and they award 93% of CTE degrees and certificates. Well, in the 87th legislature, they took a deeper look about the funding model for community colleges, and the law, SB 1230, basically said we need to put a commission together to look at the way they're financed and see what's going on. And that led to the organization of the Texas Commission on Community College. And for over a year, they met and they gathered data. They met with college presidents, trustees, students, faculty, industry leaders, and so on. And they even commissioned a poll where they surveyed over 5,000 Texans across about their attitudes and what were their perceptions of community colleges. Extremely favorable, and you already have the documents here, but really 95% saw a very positive view of community colleges of those polled. But the important thing that I want to emphasize here is that 65% of those polled said that community colleges funding should be based on student outcomes, not enrollment. In other words, and that's what I'll talk a little bit about, the traditional static funding model. Now, the commission put this report together and they would present it to the 88th legislature before it met. And they came up with 3 things. We got to reward colleges for positive outcomes, and credential completion and transfer would be huge. That's what I'll focus on real quick. But there are other 2 components: is to ensure equitable access to financial aid and increase capacity to meet rapidly changing workforce needs. That is, provide monies for workforce training, programs, and so on. So it was signed by Governor Abbott on June the 9th, and at the heart of it is shifting the funding to an outcomes-based model, from a static to a dynamic model that rewards colleges for completion and students acquiring credentials of value. The other beautiful thing about this bill is that it aligns with the state's strategic plan, which is called Building a Talent Strong Texas. And, you know, where the three major components is that to ensure that 60% of Texans ages 25 to 64, notice the entire working life cycle of an individual, to attain a valuable post-secondary credential by 2030, provide credentials that really align with the workforce demands and help boost incomes, and then to promote research and development to drive discovery. Now, the way community colleges were currently funded, now we're changing, right? It's the state appropriations, again, contract hours, core operations, success points, the local property taxes, tuition, and fees. So that's what we noticed, that in the primary revenue sources for the last between 2010 and 2021, if you look at these line graphs, you'll notice that the largest share of revenue sources were coming through local taxes. From 2010 to 2021, it went from about 37% to 47%. But what was always steadily declining is the state appropriations at 23%. Back in 2010, it was about 32%, and now down to 23%. So this realities is what the commission was asked to look at, and eventually would come up with this funding model that the '88 legislature would incorporate into the House Bill 8. So if you look at the traditional model that was for decades, you know, certain monies, state appropriations, contract hours, which is about 78% based on student enrollment, success points, and core operations would trickle down to the community colleges of Texas. Now, what the coordinating board and the legislature did is let's convert it. Now let's put the community colleges on top, and what they get in terms of funding will be dependent upon the outcomes. So if you look at the outcomes coming down, you report those outcomes, and that will translate to X amount of money that will go back to the institution. So again, there is the static legacy funding model, contact hours, core operation success points, and then the HB funding model, which is based on 2 tiers, performance and base tier. This is how we're going to be funded. Now, if you look at both of these, we at this point, and hopefully we won't ever, but the base tier we just don't qualify for. But performance tier, everybody is going to be eligible based on a formula. So let's look at base tier real quick. The base tier funding is really very simple. If you happen to be at a community college that may be in areas that are rural or small, where their cost of instruction and operations of the college outweighs what they get, what's called a local share. The local share made up of local property taxes and tuition and fees. If it's too much, it's too expensive to cost, and let's say it costs $5 million to instruct and operations run the college, and you only get about 4.2 million in the local share, then you would get the difference. And again, I'm just tinkering as kind of a broad view of this concept, but the idea is that if instruction and operations is more expensive and more than what you get, then we will give you the difference. That's the base tier. Otherwise, it's 0, right?
And only 5% of the community colleges in Texas are in that model, okay?
And then for the performance tier, here is where they're going to look at the measurable student-focused outcomes. In other words, what are you producing? You may enroll 10,000, great, but now they're going to say, out of those 10,000, how many are complete? They're receiving a degree, certificate, other credential of value to the workforce economy. Now, some of these credentials are going to be considered high demand fields, and they listed a number. You'll get additional funding for that, and you can imagine it's going to be on the STEM fields, engineering, and so on and so forth. So that's one weight or one outcome that they'll look at. They're also going to look at student transfers. If you have 15 semester credit hours and who are transferring to 4-year universities, that will be another component of an outcome. And then the value of our dual students. If they complete a sequence of at least 15 semester credit hours in dual courses that are based towards a pathway, towards a degree or a workforce credential, that will also be considered. And then in addition, there will be added weights. So if you happen to have a population of economically disadvantaged academically disadvantaged or adult learners, that will be factored into the formula for more funding. And I think that was, the very smart thing that the board did and very considerate about equity is that we have diverse community colleges across the state. And some community colleges have a lot more academically and economically disadvantaged students. So we know that they probably cost more, is what they're saying. So we add weights so they will get more funds. And that will be the formula that we'll be looking at. I'm gonna say change it, but as of yesterday, the emergency rules, I believe were accepted. And the idea is that the weighted outcome completions times the outcome funding rate, which will be what will be determined by the coordinating board, is what the student will get, or rather the college will get. So let me put this as an example. Suppose you have 1,000 graduates, they got 1,000 associate degrees. So that will be the big outcome, right? But out of those 1,000, you have 100 who were determined to be academically disadvantaged. So you would multiply the 100 times the 0.25, that's an additional 25 added to the 1,000. Now, if you happen to have another 100 that were 25 and older adult learners, they're really, really wanting you to reach out to the adult learner because it'll be a weight of 50%. So 100 times 50, 50, add that to the 1,000, and all of a sudden you multiply that by the funding rate and you get more funding. These are some of the high demand fields that they're looking at, although they will factor in regional high demand fields, like in our area, for example, logistics, supply chain, and so on. But these are the traditional ones that they've deemed in the state of Texas. And lastly, what does it mean for us? Well, as Dr. Ramirez and all of us have incorporated the importance of igniting excellence and have the legacy continue. We now, what it means for us is that now we really need to continue to be student focused, success focused, emphasizing completion, graduation, credentials of value. We need to have workforce alignment with the programs, with the local economies and state economies. It's really important on data collection and analysis so that we can report accurately. Financial planning around this HB8 model will be very important. Equity considerations, that is reaching out to all our demographics, mainly Hispanic, but again, academically or educationally, let's see, people who are not doing very well economically. But more importantly and lastly, we need to have a cultural shift. And I believe we've already started this in the process under leadership of Dr. Ramirez to begin more focus on outcome-based and to change our values and to meet the challenging times. I think we're in a good position so that in the end, student success is our success. Any questions?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was very good. Yes. Next, the Federal Financial Aid, Department of Ed, Title IV, and Higher Education Act, Dr. Fred.
Madam Chair, Mr. Steven Aguilar will be making that presentation, the Director of Financial.
And this presentation, Madam Chair, is for, because as you all may be aware, the Department of Education, who really sets out all the rules and regulations for Pell Grant and other types of funding for our students, has made some severe changes to the FAFSA. And along those lines, there are still lots of unknowns. So I know this presentation might be a little preliminary or premature. And I know Mr. Aguilar is really nervous about that, but as we gather information or we get information from the federal government, we'll be sharing it with you. He'll be sharing it with all of us. But the idea is for you all to be aware, because I know sometimes as board members, you all get phone calls from people saying, well, my kid didn't qualify, they're not giving me money, or nobody's there to help me. And I think it merits an explanation of what some of the changes have been. So.
Thank you, Dr. Ramirez. Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Ramirez, Steven Aguilar, Financial Aid Director for the record. And yes, I'm gonna second what Dr. Ramirez said. I'm a little bit nervous, but this is preliminary data. Some changes have already taken effect, and I'm gonna talk to you about, a little bit about what is called the FAFSA Simplification Act and the Future Act. That is what's gonna affect our policies and procedures, our financial aid, our Title IV. Title IV is another fancy word for financial aid. And I will give you a brief overview of financial aid so you could have an understanding what financial aid is first. And then I'm gonna give you a history of the FAFSA simplification and Future Act. And I'm gonna go to some of, I'm not gonna mention all the changes. I'm gonna mention some of the brief changes that have happened to this day that we know for a fact. Okay, so what is financial aid? And financial aid is money from the federal, from the state, from our institution that helps our student fund their higher educational expenses. What is higher educational expenses? Their tuition and fees, room and board, books, supplies, you name it. That's what we're here for. That is what the main purpose of financial aid, to provide that aid, that funding for those students to be successful in the classes. Don't worry how am I gonna pay, and to graduate. And this ties along with the 8-week courses, with everything going on right now. I know that they mentioned 8-week courses, one of the things, and I know that this is not part of the presentation, but there is financial aid available. That was one of the biggest concerns, and I just wanted to throw it in there, that financial aid is available for that. So students, not the 8-week course is not only they're gonna help the students graduate faster, but it's gonna help eliminate all those barriers when it comes to financial aid and students dropping, like Dr. Ramirez said, on that 8-week when they peak and then they go down, then they lose their financial aid. That's gonna help us. But anyways, so moving forward, so every year, every academic year, the Department of Ed tasks the schools to make sure that all students that want financial aid to apply. Every October 1st, the student must apply. There's no ifs or buts about it. We have dates from October 1st to March 1st. If you apply between those dates, your financial aid is guaranteed. We have the guarantee that your money will be there to pay for your higher educational expenses. And like I mentioned, higher educational expenses, tuition and fees, room and board, books, if you need food, if you need money for gas, if you need a laptop, whatever it is. Now, what types of financial aid come with this? So we have the federal and state grants. And I'm gonna touch on the federal. The federal grant, one of the biggest contributors to students' education is the Pell Grant. The Pell Grant is one of the biggest contributors. We get about anywhere from $19 to $20 million worth of Pell Grant, just the Pell. Then we have the state grant.
Which is federal.
Which is federal, that's right. And then we have the state grants. The state grants, we have the TUG. Before we used to have the Texas grant that was moved by the coordinating board to universities only, and now we have the TUG, which is a state grant, and it pays around the same amount for those students. So we have two big sources of funding to help our students succeed. And 96% of our students that attend LCC right now qualify for some type of aid.
But remind, just a quick introduction here, no one can get federal or state aid without a FAFSA, and now institutional aid. You don't submit a FAFSA, we can't help you. So that is an absolute must. And if you're not a US citizen, but you are a Texas resident, you can do a TASFA.
Correct.
And so, but you have to have a document submitted so that you can receive some sort of aid.
And that's where the change is gonna come in. So we do have the federal, the state grants, and then we have work study. And all this work study is a job on campus. It's basically, work study is where a student earns they qualify for financial aid on their unmet need. And with that money, we could help them, work at our institution. We pay students $10 an hour.
State or federal?
We have both. We have state and we have federal monies, federal work studies. We have state, Texas aid, and then we have the federal for work study. And then we have our scholarships. As you know, scholarships is a big part of our students. We have those students that do not qualify for, when I say do not qualify for financial aid, no. Everybody, if you apply for financial aid today, you will qualify for some type of aid. You may not qualify for free aid, but you will not qualify for loans. And as you know, Laredo College does not offer student loans. We don't want to get our student in debt because the majority of our students, like I said, 96% of our students receive some type of aid. So it is not worth getting student in debt or getting the institution in trouble because there's a lot of regulation that governs loans at an institutional level. And then we have, again, our institutional aid. All these are they're monies to help students pay for their educational expenses. And then I'm gonna just quick brief the process. So Dr. Ramirez said right now, FAFSA, you cannot get anything, no federal, state, institution without applying for the FAFSA. And you cannot, if you're a U.S. citizen or you're a resident, you must apply for the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid. For those students that are undocumented and they or DACA students, guess what? We do have state money for those. They cannot apply using the FAFSA. So what we do, we partner, and I'm happy to say that with the Office of Recruitment, we have done a great job going out to our ISDs and making sure that every student, aside from the state mandating the schools to that everybody have to apply to provide that service, they're not going to do it on their own. We're here to assist, and we do that with different events. Just this Saturday, we had another event, but we do this throughout the year in the partnership with Mr. Julio and Mr. Trevino, and it has been a great success. So the first thing they have to do, brief, they have to do an FSA ID. Why am I going to talk about this process? Because the Future Act and this is what's going to affect this process. So an FSA ID is in essence an electronic signature. That electronic signature is needed to fill out the FAFSA. So if the student, both the parent and the student have to get one. So that's going to change, and I'm going to explain here in a bit. Then once they get a FSA ID, they can apply, complete the FAFSA, and the FAFSA, the student can either bring the tax returns, we could enter it, or they could link it through the IRS using the IRS retrieval tool, which that is going to go away. Then it's sent to the Department of Ed. Yes, and I will explain that. That's going away. It's going to be, I know, but it's going to make it a little bit easier, that change. It's recent, but just listen to this. So the Department of, so it goes to the Department of Ed. The Department of Ed automatically, when the student finishes the FAFSA, the student gets what is called a student aid report. It's telling them exactly how much money they're going to receive. It used to be an estimate, not with the student aid index, and I want to explain what that is in a bit. They're going to get the amount that the Department of Ed, not LCC, and Dr. Ramirez brought a good point. You get those students calling you, oh, I didn't qualify. LCC, Dr. Ramirez is holding my money, and the financial aid director is an ogre. But guess what? It's not. It's not financial aid. It's actually the Department of Ed determining based on your income, what you put in that FAFSA, how much money each student is going to receive. So then, like I said, it's no longer going to be called EFC. It's going to be EFC's estimated family contribution. Now it's going to be called the student aid index, which is kind of like the same thing, but now the way that we pay the students for 6 hours is going to be different. So if you get 6 hours, we pay you half of your financial aid depending on how much you're going to get. So let's say you qualify for $4,000, we give you $2,000 for the 6 hours. In this case, now if you take 7 hours, well, we're not going to be able to pay you that half, like, because their ranges now is going to be a percentage of your financial aid. So that is going to change. That is, I think it might help us students in some way, but it might hurt others in another way. So then it goes to the student gets that, then it goes to the Department of Ed. The Department of Ed sends the student, thank you so much for applying, and then they send us what is called an ISER. That ISER, we open it up, we load it to our system, and it gives us a formula, and boom, this is how much the student is going to get. The student registers, we pay the student. But there's a lot of in-betweens. If I would add everything else, I would bore you to death. So I just put the simple. Yes, I did. I did. Because if not, we would be here all day. So now going back, that's what's going to change. When I say the policies and procedures, that's going to change for us, and I'm not going to get into all of those. But what it is the FAFSA Simplification Act, and I'm going to read it. The FAFSA Simplification Act enacted into law as part of the Consolidated Appropriation Act of 2021 and amended by the Consolidated Appropriation Act of 2022 represents the significant overhaul in federal student aid. It has never, I'm gonna tell you, and Dr. Ramirez can tell you this, she's been in enrollment for I don't know how long, but I am gonna tell you that this overhaul that is gonna happen, it has never happened in the past. We have different associations, the directors like myself, like Laura Elizondo from TAMIU, and all over the place. We go and we voice our opinion, what needs to change, and because we have the boots on the ground and we know what works and what doesn't work. And sometimes they do listen to us. We have always said that the FAFSA is too long, too complicated. So the feds finally changed it, but they, you know, you don't, how's the saying? You ask for something and they do, carefully what you ask, that's right. Well, let me tell you. So they did change, they did finally after, I don't know how many years, the FAFSA has changed. It's gonna be less questions, and I'll get to it. So that's the policy and procedures. I talked about that. Then FSA will also implement the FAFSA Simplification Act alongside the Future Act. So the Future Act, and that's why Dr. Ramirez, when he said, "Oh my goodness, what's going to happen?" So the Future Act is going to so the FAFSA, the student goes in there. Either we manually put in, or the student puts in their income and all their information, or they link it to the IRS. Now, this Future Act is going to tag along. No longer are we going to have to input any of that or the student. So I think that change is amazing, because the act which authorizes a direct exchange with the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, to facilitate the completing of the FAFSA form. So all these things going around, and the student couldn't link it, the FSA is wrong. All of that is going to change. It's going to be a big change, but it's going to help the students. But now the parents, we're going to be the recruitment office, and myself and the team is going to have to work very closely to disseminate this information. Marketing is going to go out. It's going to go out through the federal government. Is going to start, everybody that had applied for financial aid is going to get emails regarding this new act, okay, these new two acts, the FAFSA simplification.
Will
Now,
it lower verification request?
excuse me?
Sorry, I have a question. Will it lower, do you think that that's gonna lower verifications?
And that's our hope, because usually, right now, when the students enter it manually, there's a big percentage that they get selected for verification. If they do the link, we see an average of 90% that do not get for verification. We still have that 10%,
Well,
but this will minimize verification. I can't tell you for a fact, because it could change at any time, but yeah, that would definitely, what is verification? And I didn't touch base, and
yeah.
I know that Dr. Ramirez saw the diluted chart that I did, but the verification is a big part of getting financial aid. And I'm gonna just go in it because she brought it up. If you put the wrong information, if you put your IRS, your income tax returns manually, usually the student gets selected for verification. And when they get selected for verification, I'm gonna tell you, it's a lengthy process. It's not a process, it's a tedious process, and we recognize that. As financial aid director, I am trying, my team, we make it as easy as possible. The Department of Ed says, only what the Department of Ed sends to us, that's what we verify. So we don't go above and beyond to ask anything else that other institutions do. We do and it may sound wrong, the bare minimum to the standard, to the policy, according to the Department of Ed. So yes, that hopefully is going to minimize that. What it entails is that if that happens, then more students are going to get financial aid a lot faster. We already award students at a very fast rate, but this is going to minimize the amount of lines, the amount of people submitting documents. Although our documents, everything's submitted online through Campus Logic, and I know that you weren't present in the last meeting, but now we have a 5-year extension on the Campus Logic contract, which is
It'll be on the board agenda for tomorrow's approval. So
Yeah.
Campus Logic is an electronic tool that financial aid departments use to help with the verification process, and students can upload their information using Campus Logic. We can text them real fast and say, you need to submit this, and there's constant communication. They can take a picture of the document and upload it. I mean, it's
It's amazing.
extremely helpful.
Yeah, they could use their phone, they could use their tablet. and that is very manageable. So that is going to minimize some of that because the process is, we need the students to commit it. And sometimes the students take a little while to submit that. So you could understand. Now, some of the important changes that I'm gonna mention here is the 24-25 FAFSA will not be released in December. And that is something will be released until December. We don't know the exact date. That's one of the things that Dr. Ramirez, Dr. Fred, Jessica, it's something that we need that FAFSA application. And when it's submitted in October, my team and we have enough time to process all those FAFSAs. Because one of the things that happens is that the schools, they could put 10 schools in there and they may not come to LCC, but every single FAFSA that arrives, we have to process. And that process is a lengthy process. Although we have Banner and we have all this software, but it still takes some time, so we have to process that.
And so, just so that you all, and I'm gonna back you up here a minute because of timing.
Timing, yes.
So, in October, currently, or in the past, when they started opening up the FAFSA application for the following academic fall, was open in October. So we had from October all the way until the following fall semester to process an individual, get missing documents or information, clarify the verification, so that when they came to register for the following fall semester, they were current and their finances were in order. Because the current semester they're in should already would have been done the previous October. So I just wanted to clarify because we start school in August.
Prior.
And if they're doing the FAFSA in October, well, that means they had to pay already for this semester, so they're late, right? And the idea is how do we avoid those late students? And as it is, we had about 400 students show up like the Saturday before we started school that hadn't done a FAFSA.
And for those students, of course, we do have that help. We do have emergency loans. We don't offer direct lending, but we do have emergency loans to help them out. So
Mr.
that is.
Aguilar, I have a question.
Yes, of course.
How does a student get around the requirements for their parents' information? Because I know
Sure.
as much as the student could be organized, sometimes the parents aren't. And it affects the student,
Yes.
but how do they get around that?
Okay, to answer your question, and I'm gonna give you what the department says. But a student that is under the age of 24, not married, not a veteran, or doesn't have an unusual circumstance.
And doesn't have a child.
It doesn't have a child, yes, requires the parents' information. So, and we see it. We have students that they're 23 years old, they work full time, they have their own apartment, they have everything. And they ask, why do I have to? It actually affects them because I have to combine both incomes. I have to combine their work income plus the parents. So the only way to get around that is if they meet one of those circumstances that I mentioned. So let's say the student comes today, he is 19 years old. He is living with a girlfriend. The girlfriend gets pregnant. Then right there, automatically, the student is going to be an independent student. But now they have to be also receiving some type of social service, like food stamps, WIC, any of that. That is something that they need to receive in order to be what is called an independent student. And I'm going to touch about independence override, which is going to help a little bit more students become independent. But in essence, to answer your question, there is no way. When the parents are they're deceased, that's another one, or they're incarcerated, that's another one that we could help with. Or if the student is been living with the uncle and the mother they have not seen their parents in more than 6 years.
And has not been claimed on the income
It
tax.
cannot be claimed in the income tax. Now, we do not tell that when the student comes over, but if the student mentions that, automatically the staff knows, okay, this is a special circumstance. Those are brought up to me, because we cannot announce it. We cannot announce those, we cannot give you the answer, you have to tell us, right? And that's going to also be a change. Now, students that do not provide, and I'm gonna get ahead of this, that do not provide the parents' information, they're gonna be sent to me. And I have to do what is called an independence override for all those students, but doesn't mean just because I do an independence override that the student is gonna qualify to be independent. If they just didn't put it because the parents didn't file on time or there were amended tax returns, if there's an amended tax returns, what we do is that now the Department of Ed, with this change, before they would have to wait until the amended is over, until they get with this new act or the future act, everything is gonna transfer.
And so how can that get changed? I mean,
That is something that has to come from the federal government. That is something.
the reason is that we have, I mean, unfortunately, and it sounds bad, but
Sure.
there's a lot of parents who are just financially irresponsible, never filed their taxes or
We
don't
have-
have the documents that these, students who might be, top of their class and they can't get into college because they can't afford to pay it on their own and they don't have the documents they need to.
And
act.
for,
And
and
for
financially.
excuse me, but and there are other circumstances where the individual is being used on an income tax for a parent, but the parent has literally thrown the student out on the street and refuses. I have had this just this year, just not a few days ago, we had one where the father just refused to give her anything because he didn't want her to go to college.
like for those type of situations, if a student comes to me, we have what's called, and I'm gonna get ahead, you're gonna hear it again, homeless. So the student is jumping from place to place, from household to household, then that is a consideration for homelessness. And if the student lives in a shelter, and that's a place to live, automatically those are independency overrides, and I can do that. And usually we do that. Now, there are students that do not self-report. They do the FAFSA and they do not, we process the FAFSA, they don't get selected for verification. And they may qualify because we have some of those too, but the ones that come out through verification, we get those. And believe it or not, the word gets around, we have it in our website, that we do this type of appeals, professional judgments, and independence override. Professional judgments is for those that have loss of income. So for example, the parent is working, the company shut down, then I could do an adjustment in their income using the tax returns. So I'm just gonna move on. There is more that is coming. That is coming up. There's not a problem. I hope I answered your question. Then we go fewer questions. Remember what I said, that, and Dr. Ramirez can tell you that FAFSA, it used to be paper. We used to fill it out and it used to take forever. It was like 200 questions. So, I'm exaggerating. It's actually 100 questions, but now it's going to go down. It's going to go down to 36 questions. So for us, 36 questions for the student and the parent is going to be great. And for our recruitment team and for our staff is going to be, it's great to see this because this is going to minimize the number of errors that they commit. Because the errors produce verification. Now the IRS retrieval tool, it was very helpful, but then sometimes they couldn't get it. They couldn't retrieve the IRS information because they didn't have their FSID. So all those triggers, but now it's going to be with a future act, it's going to be directly connected. We're also going to have 11 more languages in the FAFSA, and excuse me. And they're going to be able to add, instead of 10 colleges and universities, they're going to be able to add 20 colleges and universities. And no more safe key. The safe key is a 4-digit PIN that the student creates, that is created, okay? Then we have survey questions now are required. Survey questions do ask about race, ethnicity, sex, gender, no longer are optional, okay? So that's one of the biggest changes. No longer that's required. Who provides the most financial support? And we go back to the 12, who provides more? Who's the parent? Who's not the parent? And that is a determination that is going to actually help the student in the way that now we know exactly who we're going to pick. If you live with your mom, it's going to be your mom. If you live with your dad, it's going to be your dad. None of this changing, like Dr. Ramirez mentioned, that they put this person in the income tax, and then my uncle is reporting my child. I mean, all of that is ascended, and then we go back to the homeless youth. The homeless, there's homeless questions within the FAFSA that can qualify those two types. Either a student is jumping from home to home, and a college counselor or a high school counselor knows about these type of circumstances. The student can qualify with what is called an independence override and qualify for financial aid.
Mr. Aguilar, did they leave the foster question?
They leave the foster question. So if you're in foster care, you're automatically an independent student. So foster care to the state allows us for me to give the student what is called an independence override. We don't have to add any parents, we don't have to add anybody, just the student. And usually when that happens, that the student is going to get the financial aid. Now, removal of the ability to access the FAFSA through student personnel identification information. Now, let me tell you that there is a lot of security problems going on sometimes with all FAFSA. Now, this security measure is intended to ensure that only authorized individuals have access to the application. What do I mean by that? So if the student, I know like right now, the parent and the student, they apply together. Now, the student is going to be only the one doing the student part, and then the parent is going to get a PIN for it, so they could log in and do the FAFSA information. And when I move on, I know that I don't want to take too long. Then we have what we call the unusual circumstance, and I put this because this is very important. The unusual circumstance and the special circumstance. Now these are they're aligned, and I'm able to do a dependency override for unusual circumstances. In the past, we couldn't do that. Now we're able to do that, and that qualifies more students. So students that come here, like I think you mentioned, Ms. Viendo, that you have all those students with those type of circumstances that the parents do not want to release us the tax returns. Now we have a way of doing this. So I didn't want I wanted to answer your question when we get to this. So it's a yes. So we are going to be able to help those students. Now, number 15, social security numbers. The social security number is, as you know, is very important for the FAFSA. And one of the things that you need to create an FSA ID, you need a social security number. Before, the parents that do not have a social security number or they're on their DACA, they couldn't get that. Now, every single parent that applies for financial aid is going to be required to have an FSA ID, and that's when the problem comes. Why? Because we have a lot of hesitation in our population that is undocumented or DACA students. Why? Because they're afraid that we tell them, don't worry, the data is going to be secure, the federal government is going to keep it safe. But what's going to happen once that data is released? You know, my mom is undocumented, my dad. I mean, all of those played a big part, and that's what I think is going to be the biggest issues. You know, it's going to affect our enrollment, our recruitment. Although we're getting together, it's going to be very hard for us to let the students know. So we're going to have to we're going to have to team up with the ISDs, with recruitment, to make sure that we disseminate this information. Because although the feds are going to disseminate it, we're going to also push all this information as soon as possible. And I'm gonna jump right ahead of this. How does financial aid help students attend LCC? And I'm gonna give you some figures. In the fall of 2022, 1,418 students were awarded full Pell in the amount of $3,448, meaning the student took 12 credit hours, and he based on that and their enrollment, they qualify for $3,448. Then in 2023, we had 1,680 students that were awarded a full Pell Grant in the amount of $36.98. This is an increase of close to $1 million, okay, in our Pell Grant. The tuition fees here at LC is $1,650. So if you $1,650 for 12 credit hours, you subtract from $36.98, the student ends up with a refund of $2,048. So practically, and I know that Dr. Minita mentioned this before, our students can go to college for free, in essence, because this is just the Pell at a full-time rate. We have Pell Grant that goes from 12 different EFCs, different student aid index, which gives the students a little bit more. So I just wanted to display that to make sure that our students are well serviced, they're taken care of, and the ones that do not qualify for some type of aid, we provide those scholarships. Any questions?
So just to add to that, the state in the 87th legislative session passed a bill that all seniors graduating from high school have to have a FAFSA completed before graduation, or they wouldn't graduate. Now, there is a addendum to that if the student signs a waiver that says they don't want to do the FAFSA.
Yeah.
They don't have to. Well, we have some very creative counselors who are making all the seniors sign the waiver just in case they don't get it done before the end of the year, so that they don't prohibit them from graduating from high school. I think the intent of the bill was to certainly help the students through the process while they were still in high school and get them at least part of the way into college or some sort of college process. I think we're gonna have our work cut out for us now as well to make sure that all of those seniors in high school get it done. Because colleges like ours, regardless of where the student falls on the graduation list, whether you're number 1 or you're number 699, you have the opportunity to get educated at Laredo College and deserve what you're entitled to, which is access to your Pell Grant to pay for college. And so we want to make sure that all of our students and all of our high schools are aware of that, and that all of our community is keenly aware of that. All of our adult learners need to understand that as long as they want to come to school and have never used their entitlements, even if you're 30 years old or 60 years old, you have the opportunity to apply for your entitlement, which is Pell Grant.
And like I said, Pell Grant for us is, as you can see, it's our biggest contributor to our student success. The biggest.
The number 1 reason students do not go to college is because they don't think they can afford it.
Yeah.
The number 2 reason, they don't think they're prepared for college. They don't think they can make it in college.
Thank you.
Ms. Lindo, anything else?
No,
Any
thank you.
questions? Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Any other questions for us? I mean, we tried to give you a little synopsis of some of the things that obviously financial aid is very detailed. There's a lot that goes into getting someone qualified for financial aid. The requirements of our data collection from now on, as Dr. Salinas mentioned, is going to be critical to the future of all of our success. The academic and workforce programs are continuing ed programs. All of those programs will support our finances as an institution. But more importantly, the sooner we get them in, the more we can get them engaged on campus and in their programs with their faculty members, the higher likelihood they will have to continue and finish and become productive citizens of our community. And so that's the goal. So
great.
thank you all very much.
Thank you all. very
Thank
much.
you.
Impressive. Thank
Yes.
you very much. So anything else?
I don't know,
No.
anyone else have it? I mean, this is kind of a very interactive, so if anybody has anything else to add? No? Okay.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
I second.
Okay.
You're adjourned. Thank you so much. Thank you all for your time. Thank you and your.
Thank you.
Thank you.